right, so episode number 3 of the Bitstocks Podcast. I'm laughing because me and my lovely guest, who I'll get introduced in a second, have spent most of the last 10 minutes just talking too much and actually telling each other that we need to be quiet and wait for the podcast to start. So we're starting today with none other than River. So River, who is a huge personality in the Bitcoin SV space and someone of sound reasoning and holistic thinking. So I've been looking forward to this, as you can imagine, a lot. And I imagine we've probably got a lot of controversial subject matters to cover, but all with a nice, loving hug at the same time, but cut through the BS. Yeah, peace and light, but let's cut through the BS. River, my dear, how are you? Welcome to the Bitstocks Podcast.
I'm so great. Thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this as well.
Yeah, me too. So much things in the world to discuss. I've noticed you've been hyperactive on Twitter recently, real hyperactive on Twitter recently. What is, I guess, the most forefront of your mind right now? What's occupying your thought process predominantly right now?
A lot of it, I think, coming from the last year. I mean, health is a huge passion of mine as well. Natural health, that's always kind of at the forefront, and I mean that stems from all the freedom of choice and freedom of being and freedom, and so I think that all kind of intertwines there. I am very vocal on Twitter.
Yeah. Good.
But yeah, that's first and foremost. It's the freedom. It's the freedom for everything, for choice, for life.
And where in the world are you at the moment?
I'm in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil.
Wonderful. How's Rio 2020 and presently today? I mean, what's it like over in Brazil?
Well, when I came to Brazil 8 years ago, I was searching. I'm from Australia. Mm-hmm. And I always had this kind of feeling that there just wasn't enough freedom, and everything was, Australia's not so bad. Australia is beautiful. You have, great healthcare. You have all these things that are provided by the government. It's very much welfare kind of state. But I really craved, I don't know why, I was 20 years old. It was just something that was inside me, I guess. I just craved this kind of freedom that I couldn't explain. And I went traveling all over the world, and after 2 years of traveling, I settled in Rio. And it just has this something about Rio. There's this something. And now that 2020 has passed, I can truly see, I came here, I loved it. There was something about the place that made me stay, made me never want to leave. And now, having gone through this kind of 2020 madness, I do believe that, my inner instincts, my inner self needed a place like this, because it's very obvious, having passed this past year, that this place, there is that level of freedom that just is not explainable. We did have that kind of lockdown period for the first couple of months, I guess, as the rest of the world did. Yeah. But I mean, I didn't stop going to the beach. I still went to the beach every day. There were police there, that were telling you to get off the sand, and you couldn't be there, but there's always a way kind of around it. So yeah, we weren't so heavily affected here. That's for sure. Well,
clearly you're very intuitive, because I always kind of hesitate to kind of throw an opinion like this out there, because I don't have the local knowledge. But from the UK standpoint, looking at the situation and as it's transpiring in Australia, it seems pretty aggressive now, really, really aggressive. Yeah. So I don't know if you still have family there, or maybe people there where you can report on that a little bit more accurately. But is it as bad as what it's seen from the outside in?
Well, I mean, my mum, she's in Victoria, which was the first state that had the full on lockdown. So they actually fully locked down the state, and as further towards the city that you were, the higher your restrictions were. And so where my mum lived, she couldn't go more than 5 kilometers away from her house at any given time, with no reason whatsoever. You could not leave more than 5 kilometers away. Only one person per household could go to the supermarket every day. You couldn't walk on the street with your dog. Just these kind of absurdities that, you literally could not leave the house. It was kind of intense. So, and I'm surfing every day, and I'm at yoga, and my gym's open again, and
It makes you realize that, even recently with the UK, all of London all of London, or anyone that would have been out partying, etc., all of those people were in Dubai over the Christmas break. So last month, and even still going on today, most of basically my social circle are pretty much in Dubai. And Dubai actually marketed themselves as being no lockdowns, no restrictions, etc. Come to Dubai. Dubai is not my most favorite place in the world. I've been there a few times, but even I got itchy just to go to Dubai. Ironically, just to go to a restaurant.
Yeah.
I was like, I just want to go to a restaurant. I actually just want to sit down and have a meal and just enjoy the process of just having a meal. Funnily enough, I've always been someone who very work focused, way too work focused, since really early age to present. So the whole going out thing, partying, traveling unnecessarily is always business related. Yeah. It was never really me, but what 2020 definitely allowed me to reflect upon was how much of the freedom of just existence, being present, even I, considering myself being quite awake, was denying myself of. And also as a father as well, 2 little ones, got a daughter, 6 years old, my firstborn, and my son is 4. And as things with Bitstocks start to get really intense, Bitstocks I pretty much incorporated around the same time my daughter was born. And it's just been a very aggressive journey since. And it was one of the things that was starting to get to me was I felt guilt being at the office, but then I felt guilt being at home because I wasn't at the office, right?
You've got to be present in every moment that you're there, yeah.
That's exactly that. So it gave me the opportunity in the first lockdown period to really heal that. I really enjoyed spending time at home, and the guilt aspect wasn't there because the government said I can't go nowhere. Right? I was like, I can't be guilty. Come on, I can't be guilty in this scenario, right? And that allowed me to really reconnect with that and really, really massively recharged me. And something that was interesting that happened as well with the first lockdown was I was seeing people around my local area that, guys, grown men out running with their sons, right? And mums running with their daughters or their sons. I was like, I've never seen this before. I've never seen these people. I've been living in this neighborhood for a good number of years, and I knew that was a new experience. I knew it wasn't just me. And that was really cool. I think at the beginning of this whole scenario, that aspect was really cool, the reconnection side. But I think as we've been bombarded with more angles and data points, it's becoming rationalized and normalized, right? Where it's almost doing the opposite now, completely utterly doing the opposite now. What have you found to be most important things for you as you navigate through these last couple of years?
The last couple of years have been turbulent for me, especially kind of right before the pandemic happened. So I'm really glad that I went through all the turbulence right before all of this worldwide madness, because it enabled me to be kind of, balanced and in while everything was going on. But I had a whole heap of health issues this last couple of years. And actually when I saw you in London earlier last year, I was kind of on the other side, but still very much healing at that stage. And, the health, just being conscious of everything, that everything has an effect on your health, whether it's emotional states or the food you consume or everything. I mean, learning all of that kind of as the pandemic was going on and diving right into it. I'd just gone through a separation right before the pandemic started too. So, kind of finding my own 2 feet with 2 little boys as well. I know what that feels like. Yeah. So, kind of all at once, and then the world goes mad. And I'm actually really grateful that it all happened kind of like that, because it just kind of forces you to grow up and be stronger and get that balance back. Otherwise you don't survive.
Is this where you discovered yoga, or was you doing yoga beforehand?
So I started doing yoga. I got really, really, really sick, and I went to my gynecologist. She's amazing. She's really natural. She went through the process of my second son, the birth of my second son, and I went to her, and I was really sick. I was super depressed. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I had so many physical disease coming on. And I just didn't know what to do. I was like, please, just someone, I need help. I need someone to help me. And instead of her giving me a whole list of medications, which is kind of what I was hoping for at the time, she goes, you need to go and start doing yoga. And I said, I kind of walked out of that consult, and I was like, what is this woman talking about? Why am I going to start doing yoga?
Do I look like I'm going to do a pretzel right now?
I went home and I was like, what is wrong with this doctor? She's crazy. Like, what is yoga going to do to help me? Anyway, I didn't start right away. And I kind of like got speaking to another few friends, and I started, kind of looking into more alternative medicines. And then, I kind of got all these seeds, like when you're really, really bad and there's seeds, they kind of need to be planted, and then eventually they'll start growing and manifesting. And then eventually, about a year and a half ago, I did start yoga, and I was really chronically ill at the time. And so like I could barely even keep my knees on the mat, and I'm suffering through pain. But the peace that I felt at the end of each session was beyond anything else. And so I kept going back because I had never felt so much peace, because at the end of a yoga, do you practice yoga actually?
Yeah.
So Shavasana, when you're in like the dead pose, and that I've never felt so much peace. And half the time I'd go there and I'd be bawling my eyes out in tears, and I was, so depressed, so sick. And by the time Shavasana came around, and I would like trying to hold in tears, but I'm there trying to be still. And like the hardest thing was not to do the headstands or the crazy, Bakasana, like all that. Like that was fine. Eventually, once I got all the joint stuff kind of figured out, that was fine. What was really difficult for me was being still in that dead pose. So
it's not a joke.
That helped me a lot.
I'm by no means advanced on yoga at all. But I remember when I first tried yoga, I was pretty fit, going to the gym. So this is a couple of years ago. And I was like, my partner at the time, she was like, oh, like I've booked a yoga session. I was like, yeah, cool, no worries, no problem. I'll do it after my workout, like a warm down. Oh my God. Like, it is so physical. It's so
amazing.
Yeah, it's super amazing, but it looks so tranquil, right? And everyone who does yoga is so tranquil, right? Everyone's happy. So I was like, this ain't a workout, right?
It's just stretching.
It's just stretching. Then you go and do it, and you're like, whoa. Like it's okay. Forget the gym. This is the gym.
This is the gym. Your body is the gym.
Yeah, but then what? I guess takes it, and this is where the philosophical aspect of yoga and the spiritual aspect of yoga, which is what I find most endearing about it, is it's about being in geometric resonance with the universe, right? So your body holding certain geometric shapes to be in resonance with the universe, geometric principles. And understand it from that aspect, and then you have a much more holistic understanding as to, okay, this is about connection. Like doing this, you're understanding that you aren't just you. Like you're getting the results because you are everything, right? When did you start, I guess, stepping out of the physical aspects and understanding the more, I guess, spiritual side as to what's going on?
It's probably only been about 6 months since I've been on that really spiritual journey. It was, for me, when I started yoga, it was more the Ayurvedic side, the more healing side, because, the torsions, right, the twists that you do, they actually help tone like the digestive system, which is essentially your fire, right? And so every twist that you do, and I had a whole heap of problems in my digestive system, I still do, but those things that kind of tone your entire insides, like that was where I really, really started. It wasn't until like really after that, that I could start trusting my instincts again. And then I started following that more spiritual side of it. Then I started to do acupuncture, and this really, really helped me a lot. I would say if I had like a list of the things that most helped me, it was one, yoga, and then Acupuncture was definitely second. You know, as he activated all those kind of all the energetic pathways to all those blockages, and that was just amazing. That and I still do that as like a kind of regular maintenance. But I was going like every week, sometimes twice a week, just to try and so much imbalance to try and kind of get those energies flowing again. I went into and I kind of discovered herbalism from there, and I started to, because I did have some serious physical kind of diseases that needed to be addressed. It wasn't just that, spiritual, the negativity of the mind had manifested itself into actual disease, plus, various other outside factors. So, so I started to read a lot about herbalism. I bought like 4 books and I read them all back to front, and I started to treat myself with herbal medicine. And the ones that helped me the most, because it was, a lot of the problems, they came from the digestive system. So my liver was screwed, my everything that kind of was in my digestive system was just destroying the rest of my body. So I addressed the liver, kidney, intestine, stuff like that. So I went to like dandelion root, milk thistle, nettle is a good one as well. So I have I went really, really deep in that. I went into all essential oils. Like I stopped all of anything, because one of the biggest reactions that I had after I had my second son, I got the copper IUD put inside me to prevent a further pregnancy. And because it's a heavy metal, it creates all that inflammation. And so I had a whole heap of, I ended up with polycystic ovaries. My body was like it, I started getting cysts all over my body. I started getting I had a tumor in my brain. Like it was at that level, I was almost, I almost had breast cancer. Like I was like, they were forming little, I don't even know. I haven't even checked it lately, but like it was getting really, really bad. I really needed to do something. It was a lot to do with heavy metal poisoning as well, because obviously I had the copper inside me, but also, all the products that I used on my skin had aluminium in it, or like titanium or stuff like that. And so
it's crazy. It's crazy.
I went through all my products and I'm like, I can't use any of these. And one by one, I went, kind of changing out my deodorant, my skincare products, my makeup, everything kind of along the way got changed and swapped with, products essential oil based or, vegan based and using only, natural organic ingredients.
But it's a crazy process, and reason why it's like frustrating as well is because all of these things are connected, right? Yeah. So these things aren't natural. These things should not be there.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
These ingredients should not be there. It's so easy. It's actually a lot easier to have these types of conversations now, because it's, if you and I was to speak what we're about to speak on 18 months ago, we're the crazy ones.
Oh yeah, right? We're crazy. We're insane.
But when you see this pandemic, right, and the clear overreach of government power, and the lack of statistics, transparency around the statistics, scientific
no data
foundation,
whatsoever,
and then you start then looking into, all right, clearly there's something dodgy going on here, and our focus is very high on, say, the solution that they're trying to put forward, right? The extortion plan, which is obviously vax, right? However, cool, all that stuff we can speak on, but it's the devil's in the details. What about everywhere else? What's in our food supplies? What's in our water supplies? What's in, like what you're saying, our beauty products? Right? What's in the water as it comes out of the tap?
Exactly.
Right? When you go on a holistic health endeavor, right, and you take charge and dominion over your vessel, right, you realize, holy bloody crap, the amount
everything is there to poison us.
The amount of weaponization is crazy. And we're now at a point today, which I see, I can't remember if it was before we started the podcast or when we started the podcast, I know we spoke about a lot. But it in terms of, okay, where we are at today, right? And what we now need to do in order to wake people up, right? What stage would you say we're at today in comparison to 2 years ago in terms of the awakening process? And how would you even identify the awakening process from your standpoint?
I think the awakening process in general is super individual to everyone. I think not everyone is ready to hear certain things. I think that unless you've kind of, unless you've seen the darkness, unless you've experienced, what is the bad side of any of these things, For me, it was getting really, really, really sick, and I have 2 boys and I have to live for something. Like I need to keep going every day. I think that as you kind of see people shining bright, I posted something on Twitter 2 days ago, the 2 selfie pictures, and I got about 5 DMs after that. And it was really, really nice because it was people that were like, I'm the first picture. What did you do? Like how, you're shining bright. Like how can I have some of that light? And I think as you kind of, you need to get you need to be accepting of what is and what you are and present moment. But also, as you see other people shining a light, you need to be open enough to go and find and run after that kind of consciousness, that need as well, that light, which it's contagious as well, just as contagious as the fear on the media is contagious. You see that person who's gone through the process of finding the light, and it's there are a lot of people along my path who did the exact same thing to me. So yeah,
I really, really agree with that, because yin and yang, right? Little bit of yin and yang, little bit of yang and yin. And you have to, in order to appreciate the other side, you'll have to have experienced it, right?
Yep.
To make a decision. And I've been speaking on this quite a bit, like recently. I mean, for me, 2020 was really identifying my journey of self-mastery, a journey which I've acknowledged consciously I've been on for about 5 years, I'll say, but really be like, oh, whoa, you've worked quite a bit of your mess out was 2020. And the huge chunk of it was acceptance. Like, I mean, real, like revealing and acceptance. And that is your light and what's amazing and awesome about you, right? Accept it. But your shadows, right? And that is the area where, for someone like me, my guilt stems from here.
Yep.
Right? And this guy can't shine as bright because, like, what this guy is doing. And allowing my mind to be populated with trying to change this guy. And this is the guy that people around me have beef with, right? Or these people around me have take issue with. But it doesn't mean that they're right to be taking issue with this side the way that they are. Yeah. I have to love him. I have to understand him. And I have to accept who he is today. Cool, I might want to change him tomorrow. And I do want to change him tomorrow. But I have to accept who he is today. And the biggest aspect of self-mastery, which everyone's on, by the way, whether they know it or not, every human being on this planet is on a journey of self-mastery. If you're alcoholic and you spend all your time drinking outside a local bank with a sign, you are on your journey of self-mastery, whether you acknowledge it or not, right? The biggest word is the first one. It's self, right? So it doesn't really matter how much you're consuming to a certain degree from others. I mean, I like to learn from as many people as I possibly can. I love to always be in a state of being a student. To be honest, if I could have my way, I would love to just be a student all the time. But even if you're the teacher and you are, say, trying to teach somebody something, you have to accept and you have to teach in such a way that they understand it's their journey.
Yep, exactly.
Right?
Absolutely.
And it sounds so simple, but It took me ages to work that out.
It's so much easier to be a dictator and to just give your opinion and your ideas and kind of force that upon someone else. It's so much easier to do that. And people these days are very easy to accept that as well. So there's not really a fight against that. When you start to give people their own power back, raising 2 children as we both are, if you can see that if you kind of just give them their freedom and you're not getting on their backs all the time, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't say this, you can't have this, you can't whatever. And you give them the freedom to choose how they act and how they react to life. And then you come in when they really need it and give them a bit of guidance and allow them to choose the choices and the actions that they take in. Giving them that power allows them to become strong and amazing adults who don't carry this kind of trauma because they're being forced to live in someone else's shoes or according to someone else's standards. So
yeah. And I think, funny enough, I don't know if you agree on this or not, but I think the more, say, connected I've become with existence and my place in existence, the more I realize that my kids are a better example of it than I, and I should learn from them because they do live in a state of bliss.
They do.
Right?
If you allow them to.
If you allow them to, they really, really do live in a state of bliss and like no judgment. Like my 2 little ones, they get at it at times as any siblings do.
So do mine,
right? And most of the time, I just watch them resolve their issue, and it could get heated, but then they're laughing and giggling like it never happened.
Yeah.
Only moments later, with no resentment, no baggage. No ifs and buts. There's no list of requirements to love you. Yeah. Right? Yep. They live in acceptance. Exactly. They really do live in an abundance, really, of acceptance. And that, for me, was really powerful. Like last year in particular, I really, really, really honed in on that. And funny enough, it actually influences like these practices and this way of looking at things. For me, has massively influenced how I build a business, how I viewed and perceived this space, the technology that I believe it is that we're working on, because I'm not going to say I anticipated will be exactly in this environment, but I knew something huge was coming because of all of these hidden things.
Absolutely.
Sometimes I say if you disable yourself to see, because sometimes having the gift of sight is a burden. It's a huge burden,
responsibility.
It is a huge it's a huge responsibility. But I've seen people get crushed by that responsibility. I've seen people go crazy off tapping into a higher degree of knowledge and channeling in knowledge and not having the right feedback loop around you.
Because they get into the next frequency, but they don't quite know how to stay in the frequency that already that they were, that everyone else is kind of within. So, I mean...
Yeah, you lose sight of the presence, and that's the irony, right?
Exactly.
It's like you go on this endeavor, you understand, like you start doing past life regressions, you start forward projecting, simulating. Well, I use that in terms of like meditating, same thing. And then it's like, this is gone, and then you lose sight of the present, ironically. And one thing that I'm very mindful of, especially right now at the moment in terms of the period that we are in the Bitcoin space as a whole, is we need to stop future speculating all this. We need to deliver in the present.
Exactly.
It's so important for us as a space right now to be present amongst everything that's going on in the world. I genuinely feel like the world has needed us, but now it's getting to the point where the world really, really needs us. So what's your overlap really with what you're doing in this space and the journey is that you're on?
Well, I mean, I think that Bitcoin has the ability to bring back the freedom that we're kind of missing, without being controlled by, the most basic things like finance and all that kind of stuff, without being controlled by the magic dollar. I think that the technology that can be built upon it, we need to have the people of light building on it right now, because it can be used for evil just as easily as anything else. So I think that's why I'm trying to, I'm very, very vocal on Twitter and all that kind of stuff, because I think that this technology is so important. If we can start it off with a foundation built on light, built on higher consciousness, on all that kind of stuff, then, we might have a chance at spreading that piece around the world a little bit easier than we presently have the capability to do. The last week, the censorship has just been crazy, and I'm pretty sure my Twitter account is completely shadow banned because I lose followers every single month. For the past year, I have been losing followers every month, and I was, it's just
I
kind
can't get out of my hole on Instagram. I get it on Instagram. Like 1 minute I jump up to a couple hundred followers, but it's like me too. I just can't get out of my little censorship box on Instagram.
We're in the bubble. They've places that they press a button, they're like, no, they're spreading too much truth, put the bubble on them. So they don't notice it. They're just kind of stagnant there forever. I think it's so important. And I'm working with Jack, who he has a great vision for Bitcoin as well.
Totally.
Really, really amazing vision for Bitcoin. And I agree with, majority of his visions and all that kind of stuff as well. So I'm super excited to be a part of that and be working towards this kind of amazing future that we can envision.
Bitcoin's got talent, right? Tell me a bit about that. Bitcoin's got talent. How did this come to be? Like, it looks cool as hell. Like, how did this all come to be?
Well, we were just talking one day, Jack and I, and there's, there used to be like kind of the Bitcoin SV channel, and I used to have my show on Streamanity, and there was a whole heap of media kind of happening. Of course, there's still, the Bitstocks kind of podcast. We still have CoinGeek, but there's not really anything kind of non-official and kind of that brings people in from outside. And so we just kind of like, Jack came up to me, he's like, why don't we just do a Bitcoin's Got Talent and bring all of it can be the funniest thing, like the most craziest idea, and we just have some fun with it and get people engaged and excited again. So one thing led to another, and I just went with it. I created all the kind of media and went with it, started throwing it all out there, and our first show gets released next week, actually on the 1st of February.
Nice. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a laugh. I think it's a great idea.
I think so too. I think so too.
And there's also something that Jack brought up on the chat that I had with him about getting exposure for those who don't really have exposure. I really agreed with that.
Yeah.
And I would love to get some unknowns even on the podcast and just have a good chat with a lot of people. But stuff like what you guys are doing, that's so much more palatable. It's so much less intimidating, right?
Yeah, it's just like, it's going to be fun.
Yeah. No, I really like it.
Yeah.
So when next week? End of next week?
The 1st of February. The 1st of February, which is, I'm going to release it so it'll be Monday.
Is that going to be on Streamanity?
It'll be on YouTube.
Okay, cool.
We want it to be accessible to everyone.
Yes, accessible. Good. Okay, anything else that you can reveal around what you're doing, or has it need to be a little bit hush-hush right now?
Well, I can probably reveal. I hope Jack doesn't come and smack me in the bum. But I'm working with Streamanity. A few people already know. I speak with a lot of people every day through the support system of Streamanity. So it's right after Jack he acquired Streamanity, I went to him and I was like, I need to be a part of Streamanity. I've got a long-term vision for Streamanity. It's got nothing to do with what it is right now, and I need to be a part of it. And actually, I about a year ago, Jack spoke to me. We've always been in contact, Jack and I, and he was wanting some help with Float SV. And back then I was quite sick and I didn't really have anything to give. And I was kind of like, I really want to, but I just can't. I can't do anything right now. I need to take care of myself. And so I'm working with Float as well, and Relay Card and all that kind of stuff. So
awesome. So big things for Streamanity in the future.
In the future, my vision for Streamanity is got nothing to do with what it is now. I see Streamanity as being the hosting is a huge issue. I want to eventually get hosting on chain, and I want to have distribution plans.
I can imagine the whole Parler and Gab thing must have freaked you guys out, right? Or it should freak everyone out, but...
Well, we've got our hosting is still third party, and we don't have any way to host our own private servers. And still, like, at the end of the day, it's not foolproof. Even if we did have our own server and we went down that path, there's no way that we can prove that that's censorship resistant, or, that gives the ability for that as well. So... eventually, hopefully, we get to a point where we can do this all on chain. And I mean, for me, it's not so much, the videos that we see today on Streamanity, the very niche content or even content creators. For me, it's documentaries, it's indie films, it's giving, the ability for filmmakers and documentary makers to share their content however they want, embed it on their own site, share it on, whatever. It's going to be, if it's eventually all on chain, that revenue share that's kind of really automatic, which is such a great feature of Streamanity, having all of the producers and the directors and the actors and all that kind of stuff, being instantly paid out for every single view that happens.
The potential's crazy. The potential is crazy for Streamanity. And I was saying to Jack just like last week that I just want to see it become something freaking amazing.
We need to do a few more things first with the wallet side of things, and then we can eventually start getting towards Streamanity.
Good, high hopes, very very high hopes. Good. Right, there's something that you mentioned on the last point I was talking about around consciousness, Bitcoin, where we're going, and this is something I feel very passionately about. And in my downloads, which really started, well, it actually started when I was a kid, to be honest, but meaningful downloads in relation to Bitcoin about 4 years ago. And funny enough, what I was looking into at the time was reading consciousness in financial markets. I was like, Fibonacci wave, there's all this wave. I was like, this is so basic. It's so elementary. Like there's deeper stuff here, right? And I had, I was in a kind of awkward place in my relationship at the time as well. So I kind of took a hiatus. I rented my own place. Don't know why. I rented this huge 5-bedroom mansion with like a 2-acre garden, and I spent my whole time in the basement. Right? Complete waste of money, very immature, very, very, admittedly, like my ex-partner's looking at this, I was immature, I know. But what it allowed me to do was the whole basement was converted. I had numbers all over the floors, all over the walls. You just assume something was like nuts going on. Like I had the Egyptian Book of the Dead.
Nice.
I was studying Thoth, the Emerald Tablets. I was looking into the Black Sea Scrolls. I was also a student of the Law of One, so the teachings of Ra. I was really deep into this. I started to study the Book of Enoch, and all with the view at the time when I was like trying to create something that was technological.
Yeah.
And it really in particular, as I was studying Thoth and the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and that's when it dawned on me that Bitcoin is not a blockchain. Like it really, really dawned on me that Bitcoin is not a blockchain, that Bitcoin is a time chain, right? And if we get this right, this is going to be the recreation of the Akashic records, right? So the very thing that I was studying, reading about, understood, I was like, oh crap, like this is what this is. This is memory. This is space memory. Right?
Yep.
And that's when I started banging on about density, and this is what became the birth child of gravity. And that logo is so simple, being a circle. That's the network. That's what I was seeing in my mind. And that white circle in the middle is not an empty space. It's hyperconnectivity where everything's touching, right?
Yep.
I was like, wow, okay, this is really the true potential of Bitcoin. And I was like, okay, well, who's talking about this? Where is this going? And does anybody else see things this way? And then it kind of really super dawned on me about, well, and I always assume I'm not the first person to notice things.
Yep.
I was like, if someone else has really seen this and really understands this and understands what this means in terms of things like artificial intelligence and what this will mean to humanity in terms of not clustering our knowledge anymore, not having an issue with our how we store our human experiences, and then pull from our human experiences in this place where anyone can bring up a table, bring up a chair to the edge of this ring, and they can interact and they can read it. That is too powerful. It's way too powerful. And then I started to realize, okay, this is why the Bitcoin narrative is the Bitcoin narrative, BTC and all these other chains. Whether the people realize it or not is irrelevant. But the people at the top must understand this as to why this is a huge, 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 huge threat. And
they don't.
No, I think the ones at the top, the ones at
the ones at the very top. Okay,
very top. And it's funny because now that I'm doing a lot of research into obviously what's going on in the world right now, a lot of the names and the corporates, like the geezer who apparently hung himself in a cell, where that would have been very, very difficult in order to do so. Missed the E with the island, in case anyone is unaware as to who I'm talking about. But when I was doing research into that stuff, Bitcoin came up a lot and was utilized a lot. And names like Zuckerberg came up in that as well, and this whole ring and utilizing Bitcoin. I was like, okay, this is complete validation of what I assumed was really the case. And then I look at how the inventor of the space, so Craig Satoshi, his journey and what he's had to go through, and what we have at the end of this journey in the present right now is this project that we call Bitcoin SV. Right. What shot do you feel we truly have to allow this technology to do the things that you and I want to do with it? Like, can the light workers really bring this into the mainstream?
I think that we have a really good shot. I do. If the light does start to come out, when we had I don't know if this was recorded earlier, when we were talking about, that the people becoming conscious, if people do start to become kind of conscious and then do kind of go on that path. If there is like this mass awakening, then I think ideally, I mean, we don't have much time either. We maybe have, I think we need to get somewhere within the next 4 years, somewhere. And then maybe we have another 15 years to really get, to a level of pretty high adoption. That's my personal opinion. I don't think there's going to be any miners left if over the next kind of 10 years, if it's not going anywhere.
So what does it look like in 5 then? Tell me what it looks like in 5 and tell me what it looks like in 15.
Well, I would like to not have the competition of the other blockchains as well. Like, it would need to be something that I mean, I think ideally if BSV was going to get anywhere, somewhere, it would need to be, all these CSW kind of promises, that they're not going to exist. It actually needs to happen.
The patent's being enforced, the copyright claims being enforced.
It needs to, kind of go down.
But just on that though, River, just pause on that a sec. I fully agree with you on that point. I really do.
Yeah.
The litigation process is so long.
I know.
And how many people are there to litigate against? Right. Let's say we go, and I'm so glad, by the way, that N-Chain done what they've done, and they do have the patent portfolio that they do.
Yeah.
Right. But all of this like minute stuff of fighting against kids in their mum's basement and pizza stained vest. I get the strategic aspect of it, of like, okay, let's get the court to acknowledge that I'm Craig against a geezer like Holdernote, right? Which I assume is just like, I don't know, some overgrown kid in his mum's basement. Just
likely, yes.
Twitter warrior. I get the strategy behind doing it that one time. But the real war that's yet to be fought is the likes of IBM, Microsoft, Amazon filing patents, then building things with the patents that infringe on N-Chain's patents. Right? That hasn't really started yet.
Will it start?
That's the thing, right? And what does that look like? Even if you've got a billions worth of a war chest, there's only so much that you could diminish the amount of time it's going to take to fight these things.
And is it going to just bring more negativity to the space as well? Is the constant need to be kind of, when I do to a certain extent understand the patent strategy to a certain extent, but I don't fully agree with it. I think that instead of, going, there's a lot of time being spent now on kind of making sure everything's on paper and kind of legit and following the rules. But, there are so many disruptive technologies that just go and they just make stuff and they just do it. And they need to go ahead and disrupt everything. We can't be sitting here asking permission from these corrupt governments and tyrannical whoever.
The huge revelation was like the fact that the US, doesn't matter how people feel about the Biden and Trump election, but for a blemish on humanity's record for transparency and democracy is horrific. That it could not be heard in any court, not even the US Supreme Court. That to me, when I look at the BSV space, I'm like, I was like, this we can't just bank on law being law, because law isn't law when it's corrupt.
Exactly. And we're seeing more and more as the last year passed by, we're just seeing more and more how corrupt all these governments are, taking away the rights of their citizens for what? For a flu? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, every year people die of the flu. It's not something that's a new thing. It's something that's gone way out of proportion. People are dying of fear. They're not dying of a flu.
Do you not have a mask collection then, River?
Oh, do I have a mask collection?
It's like my Monday mask, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
I tell you what, I do have one mask because it's disgusting. You've got to, because it sits in the bottom of my bag collecting like dust and sand and God knows what else. Because my gym, you have to wear a stupid, and I love my gym. I really do. They will not let me in with that one. So I just wear it like kind of here. And but it's disgusting. The thing is really gross. Like I sweat just, it's really bad.
But it's good for your health. Make sure you got it on. It's good for your health.
It's getting me, it's gonna, yeah.
All right, so it's 5, so 15 years. So let's say we have a positive 5 years, right? Where we start getting like the innovation, companies in the space really start going for mainstream.
Everything leaves beta because everything's in beta at the moment.
Everything leaves beta.
Yeah.
The next, say, 10 years that then go after that, what era do we start stepping into?
I don't know. I always, whenever I thought of Bitcoin, I always thought of it as a currency itself. That kind of got lost along the way somehow. I don't know really why, because for me, it's still if you get to that level of adoption, it is essentially a stable currency. Like this doesn't have this volatility that we're currently faced with. I don't know why that stopped being the goal.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's all well and good to have like a fiat on top of BSV and have maybe an official currency, and that's all well and good. I'm sure
as an interim solution. Yeah.
As a transition, exactly. But I mean, I want to see it as a currency. I want to be using it every single day. I don't want to have the friction of, going in and out and having to, get fiat and being, it's never going to get anywhere if it's still like that. I mean, if the idea is not to use it as a currency anymore, and it's like, I don't know, I can't keep up with the narratives because every day it seems to change. It's like enterprise solution, it's data management, it's blah, 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 blah. I don't know. It's a currency.
So on that, I really agree. I think it was the Exeter University. When that first started off, I think it was still Bitcoin Cash, if I'm not mistaken. It was very, very electronic cash, peer-to-peer electronic cash. Yeah,
Bitcoin Cash was all about cash. Yeah.
All about cash. And then it just changed, like very drastically without any explanation. It changed. And
data management.
Yeah, it drastically changed. I don't think the change was not the right thing to do. I think it's unrealistic to be touting digital cash. It's just the mountain's too high, right?
I agree.
Right now, the mountain's too high. And I don't think that's not the objective, and that shouldn't be the objective. I just think the way that we went about it was incorrect. What we need it to be is oxygen for our machines. Right? So once this currency has the whole world out there needing, I would say like paper and pen with Bitcoin, right? It took me 6 years to basically work out how to explain Bitcoin, to simplify it down to just a piece of paper and a pen. But everyone right now is running around like $30,000 Cartier pen, right? Diamond encrusted Cartier pen. Look how amazing my Cartier pen is. It's like, all right, bro, can I use your pen? And then you try and use it, it's got a fucking ink, right? Or like the ink's like basically useless. Because if I do $10, it costs me $8 in fees. So like, what the fuck? Take your shitty Cartier pen back, mate, because I got no use for it, right?
Exactly.
But with Bitcoin SV, we have the opportunity to have the whole world looking for a pen. The whole world will be looking for a pen. We get to that standpoint where it becomes oxygens for this IoT, this fourth industrial revolution, this data economy that we're all speaking on, which I genuinely believe is happening. And
I agree.
We've got a big role to play in that. If we want to have a big role to play in that, then it becomes oxygen. If it's oxygen for the data economy, then it's better than oil in this economy. Right? Then I see it 1,000,000,000% being the best medium of exchange that I think the planet would ever have experienced. But I think I agree with you on the time frame as to when these kind of things will start happening. If that happened within 10 years, I'll be shocked. Like I'll be amazingly and happily shocked. But I would be shocked if it's being used as a medium of exchange to that degree within 10 years. So as entrepreneurs in this space,
you've really got to plan ahead.
You've got to plan ahead. You got to plan. So that's the thing, though. You got to plan ahead. You got to be capitalized today. You got to generate revenue at the same time.
You got to keep going. You got to find ways to keep going.
Totally. And
to survive the winters.
Yeah, and this is where our winter was. I would say it didn't need to be as cold as it was. It really didn't need to be as cold as it was. And that hurt a lot of businesses in its space.
Big time.
Hurt us a lot too as well. And I think these are the aspects where we kind of position ourselves as a community of inclusion and like contributionism. But I have no qualms in saying it, and I've said it directly, and I'm trying to address it feeling different. But I have felt very insecure going into N-Chain's offices to discuss my technology. And
I understand.
And the last couple of times done that, we kind of just put a lid on it and said, it's unfortunate, but I want to go in there and say, I've got a chassis. I need an engine and a gearbox, please.
It can't all be in one basket, because the danger of having all of the technology in one basket, which is, the kind of N-Chain basket, the CoinGeek basket, let's say, all of that all together. As soon as you put it all into one basket, it's easier to be manipulated as well. It's easier for someone who has a power hunger or whatever to come in and use it in the wrong way. I think that it is really important to have several different little baskets of competitors and coming together. Yes, you all have the same kind of vision and idea, sure. But, going at it and working at it, because the more scattered it is, the more chance we have of breaking out of this little bubble that we have. If we kind of stay in this little insider knowledge bubble, kind of just all, it doesn't work. It doesn't grow. It doesn't get out anywhere. So
no, I totally agree. I really would love to see more collaborations in the space and us just pushing forward on the premise that we're trying to penetrate the mainstream. Not I'm trying to beat Ethereum or I'm trying to beat Bitcoin. I just want humanity to be affected by this. And if we can all help each other do that, we win. That is simple. I agree. And I think we're so small and tiny. We're a niche of a niche of a niche, which is crazy considering.
Very much so.
The guy who spearheaded.
The possibilities.
Spearheaded this whole thing, man. This whole thing. And we're a niche and a niche and a niche, right? And that's even more reason, ironically, why we do need to kind of push together in the same direction to just get stuff out there. So humanity's using it. And that's where the changes really start coming in. So that's enough of Bitcoin, right? For yourself and the continuation of your journey, how can you see your life changing if we do have this event? I'm very optimistic about 2021. I do think it's going to get a little bit more uncomfortable. Well, it's already getting more uncomfortable. Ever since Sleepy Joe took the office, for me, it just feels more uncomfortable. However, I do think this is going to trigger further awakenings and realizations. And to a large degree, I think people need to step into their divinity. And I don't think enough pressure has been applied that's brought people to their knees.
No, you're right.
To step into their divinity. And I don't want it to be the case of people falling to their knees.
But it kind of has to happen like that, though. Yeah. I mean, we've both been through it. We've both kind of gone to the bottom of the well and, had to find, the little holes on the well to climb back up again, I don't think that there is light without darkness. I think that very much, for you to become conscious of the things that are, to shine a light on those kind of negative little things, whatever they are, habits, thoughts, belief, kind of patterns and all that kind of stuff. So as long as they're still in the shadows, nothing's going to ever change. And once we start to shine those light and become conscious of all of the negative patterns, whether it's, personal or from, everything, hopefully little bit by little bit, people will start to come to the light and we can all come together as one and to work together. We are stronger together. If we all have the same kind of vision, the same goal, we want to bring this, illumination to everyone, to wake up, to find their own divine self, to become conscious of everything, that being present.
2021, the year?
I hope so. I'll be here shining my light if anyone needs I got a candle. Come bring your candle to me. It's all good. I'll help you.
That's been my whole notion as well. Like, especially after, as I said, Sleepy Joe taking office, right? My phone blew up. Yeah. Like, my phone blew up. Everyone was like, dude, what's going on? I thought you said this would be the most likely scenario, all the rest of it. Yada. I was like, look, the most important thing right now is understanding your relationship with the divine. And the more you understand that, the more you will realize you are him. We are all him or her. We are it. I am.
We are the universe. Yeah.
Exactly. And I tell you something that I'll share with you and I share with everyone, that I was almost embarrassed by how simple it was, but it blew my mind, like completely utterly. I changed my perspective afterwards. Is when I found out what universe stands for. One song.
Oh, wow.
I know, right? It blew my mind. I only understood this realization 2 years ago. And I was like...
I was today years old when I discovered that. Yeah.
I was like, it's in our face. It's so obvious.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I use that as kind of like my navigating path and my guide. And also the challenge for me is you have to accept everyone as your brother and your sister, light and the dark. Doesn't mean you agree. Doesn't mean you subscribe. Yeah. But you need to accept.
Doesn't even mean you need to like them. Just accept. Yeah.
We need to accept. So anyone out there who's championing and trying to activate people's own journey of self-mastery and who is raw enough, mature enough, and humble enough to show their journey, warts and all, with doing that in order to do so, got nothing but love, appreciation, and time for. I think I've literally witnessed you build up a much stronger position in this space and influence in this space because of your willingness to share and to have such a strong voice of reason, and also whip out your sword when you need to bring out your sword. And that's, you know, we laugh, but it's so important, River. It really, really is important. So from my standpoint, thank you so much. I know.
Thank you.
so our marketing team here is predominantly women. I think we've been on a women hiring spree here at Bitstocks.
Great.
It's been
fantastic.
It hasn't been deliberate. It's just been what it's been. We just hired a female developer today as well, which I was really, really happy about. But my head of marketing, funny enough, is my sister, who's a much better version of me. She's a smarter version of me, and she's got the artistic musical brain as well. She couldn't wait for you and I to have a conversation.
Is that Nicola?
That's Nicola.
Is that your sister?
Yeah.
Oh, she's beautiful, isn't she? I started following her on Instagram just now. Yeah. She's wonderful.
She was really pumped for us to have this conversation. So I'm saying thank you for her as well, because I know she probably would have.
Thank you to both.
Yeah, I'm sure she would have wanted to say it herself. But yeah, River, please just keep doing what it is that you're doing. I can't wait for the first episode on the 1st of February for Bitcoin's Got Talent. Please make Streamanity what it can be.
I will, don't worry.
Really push that forward. Any last words that you'd like to say?
I'm so grateful to have spent this hour with you. Honestly, Michael, it's been really, really nice. I've been following you over the last few years, and you've been a huge inspiration for me as well. And to help me to find that light, as you've definitely been along that path. So thank you. I'm so grateful.
Appreciate it.
And yeah, thank you for having me on the show.
Well, let's keep on pumping light together.
Yes.
Right? So you got to do it with me now. Peace, love, and light. You've got to sign out.
Peace, love, and light.
All the best, everyone. Take care.